Hello everyone, I'm Roseann Sarica Benedict, and it is barking dog day. No, it's the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm very busy preparing my meal for tomorrow. And although I'm not having a lot of people, it's probably the first Thanksgiving that we're not having like, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 40 people at my house. We're going to be an intimate group of, I think, just 10. Makes me sad. None of my boys are coming home for the holidays. They're in Colorado, and well, not none of my boys. 2 of my boys are not. I am lucky enough to have one of them that's coming for Thanksgiving. So anyway, enough about who's coming for dinner and who's not. All I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to make one of my favorite side dishes called Sweet Potato Surprise. It's a Southern Living magazine cookbook recipe, and I've been making it for years. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is the recipe calls for 4 large sweet potatoes that you would boil and cook until they're softened, but I always use canned sweet potatoes because they're easy. And so I have no idea how many 4 sweet potatoes is, but I use 1.5 cans of this goodness, and it makes the perfect size recipe. And what do I do with the other half? I put them in a pan with marshmallows, and I think I'll put one more piece. I put them in a pan with marshmallows, and everybody's happy to have just a little bit more marshmallows and sweet potatoes on Thanksgiving. So 1.5 cans, and what size is it? I guess it's the large size, 40 ounces of sweet potatoes, or 4 large sweet potatoes. And then you add to that, the next step is I'm going to take you over to the stove, and I am going to put in a pot over the heat 3/4 cup of butter and 2 7-ounce jars of, are you ready for it? Fluff. Oh my God. This is definitely not a dietetic side dish, but it's worth the calories once a year. Just wear your elastic pants on Thanksgiving. So I'm going to take you over to the stove, and I'm going to melt 14 ounces of marshmallow fluff, give or take, and 3/4 cup of butter in a pan, and then we're going to put that in with the sweet potatoes. I am at the stove. You may not see me, which is a good thing. No, I'm only kidding. And I'm going to put in here 3/4 cup of butter. So that's 1.5 sticks of butter, and then about 14 ounces of fluff. This jar is 16 ounces, so you know what? I'm using the whole thing because one can never have enough sugar in their sweet potatoes. So I'm going to smush, whoops, I'm going to drop things on the floor so my dogs can eat them. No, I'm only kidding. I'm going to melt this butter, and I'm going to sort of smush it around the sides of the pan because fluff is sticky, right? It's marshmallow. But if there was butter along the sides, it would be less likely to stick. So, okay, so that's what I did. Now I'm going to pour in the whole 16 ounces of fluff. And I'm just going to stir this up until it is smooth. And then I'm going to add this to my sweet potatoes that I just poured in the bowl. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you because this is what it looks like as it's getting ready to melt. But it does take a few minutes, so I don't want to bore you. I'll come back. Okay, so my marshmallow fluff and my butter is all melted, and you can see how nice and creamy it is. Nice and smooth and creamy. So I'm going to take that over to the potatoes, and we're going to mix that together. So I have my sweet potatoes. I'm going to pour my marshmallow and butter mixture that I just melted over the stove. And that didn't take long, a couple of minutes, 5 minutes or so to melt that all up. Put all that deliciousness in that pan. And then, and I did tell you already, it's not it's not low calorie. Then I'm going to add 2 eggs to this mixture. And it really is an easy dish to make. And what's great is you do it the day ahead of time, and then you just pop it in the oven the day of Thanksgiving, and it's even better the next day. Anyway, 3/4 cup of sugar goes in there. A cup of milk goes in here. Okay, so I got potatoes, butter, marshmallow fluff, sugar, eggs, and milk. That's it for this part of it. Then you take your mixer, you mix it all up. I'll do that, and not to make your ears hurt from the noise, and I'll come back. Okay, as you can see, this is nice and smooth now. I beat it for about, I don't know, 2 minutes or so. And then what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of butter and put it in a 13 by 9 pan. So I'm just gonna coat the sides with the butter and the bottom with the butter. You can use Pam or some other kind of ingredient, but this is just so it doesn't stick. Okay, that's good enough. And then what I'm going to do is take this mixture and pour it into this pan like that. You can make smaller portions if you want, and that way you have one for the next day and one for Thanksgiving Day, but we just make the big one and eat what we can, and what we can't we'll have the next day. Okay, so that's what it looks like, and then what you do is make the topping, and the topping is really yummy. So let me just melt my butter and I'll get back to you. Okay, here's my butter, and the recipe calls for 1/3 cup of butter melted, but I threw a whole stick in, which is 1/2 cup. And the reason why I do that is because I add a little bit more of the topping than it calls for, just because, why not? Anyway, I do follow the recipe when it calls for the brown sugar. It's 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So add that to my butter and just stir that so that it melts up. You can do it over the heat. For the demonstration purposes, I'm just doing it with the warm butter. It'll take no time to melt. Actually, it's almost all melted now. I'll show you that in 1/2 second. Okay. So you have your brown sugar and your butter. And then what you do is you get 1/2 cup of pecans. I use 3/4 cup. Put that in. And then the final thing that you use for your topping is, you're supposed to use cornflakes, but I really love Honey Bunches of Oats cereal, and it calls for 1 cup. So I'll probably do 1.5 cups, because remember I added extra butter. And that's why I'm not really generous with the sugar, because Honey Bunches of Oats cereal has some sugar in it too. And I mean, let's face facts, this whole side dish is sugar, but you know what? It's once a year. It's something we all love in my family. Actually, my son Tyler from Colorado, he's in Denver. He called me last night and asked me for the recipe because he's going to make it. So all of that went in that pan. It's all mixed up, and then you just take it and put it all on top of the sweet potatoes. I'm actually going to add just a hair more. And you know, Honey Bunches of Oats has almonds in it. So you have the pecans and the almonds and the little granola crunchies, and it's just yum, 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 amazing. So, okay, so here's, sorry, I have a lot of things going on in my house today. I have an air conditioner guy coming because I had a leak in the summer. Hey, Miko, stop. A leak in the summer. I had somebody, see how well my dogs listen. I had a leak in the air conditioner. I have a package being delivered. I had, anyway, I have a bunch of people coming over today, so that was somebody that was just pulling up the driveway. Anyway, so then I just take this and sprinkle it all on top, and I will tell you that after this is sprinkled on top, then I cover it and I put it in the refrigerator. And then tomorrow, about 2 hours before Thanksgiving dinner, I pop it in the oven and I cook it. And then I just let it sit. And if it needs to go back in for another minute, I put it in. But for the most part, it stays warm and perfect. And it is just a really yummy side dish to have on Thanksgiving dinner. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me. But more importantly, I wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm grateful that this year was not as bad as 2020. I'm grateful for all my friends, my family, my clients, and my dogs. So, happy Thanksgiving. Oh, I forgot to tell you when to bake it. You have to bake it for $3.50 for an hour. I'll tell you, it does take a little longer than $3.50. Probably, takes a little longer than an hour. It probably takes more like an hour and 20 minutes to bake. So, all right, happy Thanksgiving. The phone's ringing, the dog's barking, people are coming in my driveway. This is a crazy house all the time. Okay, it's double video, recipe video Wednesday. Is that such a thing? Obviously, I'm making lots of things for Thanksgiving. I can't remember if I made my pumpkin bread once before. My friend Melissa Ballas's mother's recipe, and I love it. And so I'm making it again. So it's 2 recipes on one day. How's that for fun and excitement? So let's start off. This is pumpkin bread. That's the most to die for pumpkin bread you'll ever make. Very simple to make. I'm going to triple the recipe because actually for my broker open house last week, I played a Family Feud Thanksgiving version, and I made all the agents who came to my open house play this game, and they all accommodated me, which is really nice of them. And the winner got to get a loaf of pumpkin bread, and I actually picked 2 winners. So I need to make this bread for them because I promised them that, but also for my family and my neighbors that I give a loaf of bread to every year. So let's get started. So I'm going to triple the recipe. Okay. So normally it would be 3.5 cups of flour. I have 10.5 cups of flour, and I'm pouring it into Grandma's bowl. This is my grandmother's bowl. So that was 8 cups, and this is 2.5 cups. So 10.5 cups of flour. It should be 2 cups of sugar. I'm doing 6 cups of sugar. So this is 2, and this is 4. So 6 cups of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. And then I'm putting in, I forgot my measuring spoons. And then I'm putting in 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So that'll be 6 teaspoons. And I'm sure that's 2. I got to count 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, I don't usually measure, but when it comes to baking, sometimes you just have to measure. And I know there's probably some science that says you're not supposed to just triple the recipe when it comes to like leavening agents like soda or baking powder, but it always turns out fine, so that's how I make it. So baking powder is 1/2 teaspoon, so I'll do 1.5 teaspoons. That's 1.5 teaspoons. And then 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And did I bring the salt over? Oh yeah, I did, right here. And of course I won't measure. That's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be perfect. Okay, I think that's probably too much, but nonetheless, it'll be perfect. Oh my God, why do you guys watch me? Okay, next thing, we're going to add cinnamon. Where's my recipe? Oh, there it is. We're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. And so that'll be 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. 1, 2, and I do heaping because I like cinnamon. And 3 teaspoons of nutmeg. I'm actually thinking, well, let me get this in and then I'll tell you what I was thinking. 1, 2, 3. I was thinking I might make this recipe as muffins because this weekend, as I mentioned in my earlier video, we have our North Mianus tree delivery on Saturday. We're trying to lighten our community with Christmas trees, and so sent an email out to people. I was able to get Christmas trees wholesale, and hopefully people will be putting them out by their streets, and it'll just lighten our community up, brighten our spirits, lighten our community. That was the thought behind it. So this weekend on Saturday, people are supposed to be picking up their trees, and so I may make some pumpkin bread into muffins and actually add a little streusel top on it, and they're going to be really yummy too. But let's focus on the bread, Roseann. Okay, so I did 3.5 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, 2 teaspoons of soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. I'm going to just give this a little swirl, and then I'm going to add the liquid stuff, and then I'm going to beat that up and pour that in my little pans. So it smells, cinnamon smells so good. So I hope you guys are all going to have a fabulous Thanksgiving. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to now pour my wet ingredients in, and it's 3 cups of oil, 1 cup if you're making a single batch, but I'm making a triple, so 3 cups of oil. Okay, 4 eggs, and I already cracked all the eggs, so I wasn't going to bore you, but that's actually 12 eggs, right? Because we're tripling. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, and then 2 cups of pumpkin, canned pumpkin. Obviously, if you want to cook your pumpkin and do that, you can. I am not that motivated to do that, so canned pumpkin works beautifully. And so I need 2 cups, so I need 6 cups in total. I didn't pre-measure that, sorry. I'll probably... So I needed 2 cups of pumpkin, which tripled to 6 cups of pumpkin. So I'm pouring that in. It wasn't quite 2 of those big cans. It was just a little less than the cans. So I'll give that pumpkin to my dogs. Did you know dogs, like a lot of dog food has pumpkin in it? Yeah, I learned that not too long ago. Okay, so we got that, and then I need some water. 2/3 cup. So let me grab that. So I needed 2/3 cup of water, 2/3 times 3, 6/3. So that's 2 cups, 2 cups of water. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to add is nuts, because you know me, I'm nutty, and I love nuts in my food, but we'll do that after we mix this up. So I'm going to get my beater out, mix this all up, and then come back to you. This looks really yummy, smells delicious. I think I got everything all incorporated, and now I'm going to add the nuts. It calls for nuts. It doesn't say how many nuts, but I'll probably use about, well, this is 6-ounce bags, so a little less than a cup for each. And I'm actually mixing pecans and walnuts because I like both of them, and so I'm tripling that amount. So oh gosh, look at all those nuts. They look so good, right? So I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to pour them in my prepared pans and show you what they look like when they come out of the oven. So if you want some pumpkin bread, just give me a shout. I always have extra. And actually, it freezes really well. You can cut it and then freeze it, or you can just keep it whole in the container and then take it out and freeze it. And of course, if you microwave it and add a little butter to it, it's even better. So anyway, all these, I'm just doing throwaway aluminum tins and spraying them with a little Pam because if I'm giving them as a gift, it's just easier to do it that way rather than use the loaf pans and then have to worry about getting them back and all that kind of stuff. So this is just easy. And then I'm doing 6 big loaves. I'm doing 3 of these little, is it 3? No, 5 of these little mini loaves. And these mini loaves are good for just like 2 people. So if you have a couple that you want to give your bread to, that's perfect size. So, and then I'm just taking a scoop and filling these pans up, because normally I'd pour from the bowl, but this bowl is heavy. So, okay. I'll show you what they look like as soon as I fill them all up. You don't fill them to the top, you fill them about 3/4 of the way. If you fill them to the top, they overflow. Okay, so as you can see, I've made 6 of this size loaf pan, and then 5 of the smaller one. And I am going to keep them on a cookie tray just so that it's easy to transfer them. Bake them in the oven. What do I bake them at? Let me see. 350 for 45 minutes to an hour, and it usually does take an hour. So I'm going to put them all in the oven. The house is going to smell wonderful, and I'll keep you posted.